Hey, Pretty Girl Club! In honor of us hitting the 8,000 subscriber mark, well, we're getting close to it. In honor of us hitting that mark, I've noticed that a lot of you guys are new, so I'm super excited about that. So today I want to do a video that just talks about all of the exotical phrases, because here in the Exoticals United community, we are still in the process of developing a language around the experiences we've had, and I actually love that we have our own secret language because it gives us something to bond over, and also it helps people who are not a part of our community to not even understand what we're saying. So I'm going to be going over some of the secret exotical phrases that we use here in the Pretty Girl Club. And if you guys have any other ideas or any other slang words or phrases that you want to use here in our community, then just let me know. So the reason that I came up with these phrases is because, well, I didn't come up with all of these phrases that I'm going to be using in the video, but the reason that I came up with some of these phrases is because I feel like a lot of people, they have tried to erase our experiences, and a lot of people try to speak for us. They try to speak for lighter skinned people. They try to speak for multi-generationally mixed people, and they try to pretend like we don't exist. And so I'm so glad that we were able to create our own community where we have our own language, where we talk about our own stuff, and nobody can take that away from us. And so I'm excited to see what other slang phrases we come up with in the future. So the first phrase that I'm going to go over is the term exotical. Exotical just means being mixed or looking mixed. The thing that we have in common on this channel is that we are all mixed with blackness. Blackness is one of the core pieces of our identity. This is not supposed to be some sort of anti-black type of channel, because our blackness is actually what bonds us here on this channel. If I can find a picture of my exotical poster, I will post it on the screen. Those women are all examples of exoticals. You can be any shade, any skin tone, you can have any different hair texture. I also, a couple of years ago, I put it in the Urban Dictionary. My friend Brown Skin Exoticals also put the word exotical in the Urban Dictionary. So it's a biracial, multiracial, or multi-ethnic black person with light skin, keen features, or type 1, 2, or 3 hair. And then my definition of the word exotical is, an exotical is a beautiful black woman with biracial or multiracial ancestry. An exotical is a woman who is mixed race or who appears to be mixed race. Exoticals are women who benefit from pretty privilege, and they are often considered preferences due to their beauty. So a lot of you guys can relate to that here. By the way, make sure you get my Pretty Girl Club mug in the description. I've linked that on my channel. It's just a way to support this channel. The next phrase I'm going to go over is MLS. MLS means mixed or light-skinned. This term refers to members of the black community who are mixed race of any complexion with 25% or more non-black ancestry, as well as light-skinned black identifying people with a caramel skin tone and above. So when I use the 25% marker on this channel as something that is kind of proving that you're mixed race, I use that because there are plenty of other activist groups in multiple countries throughout the world who use the 25% marker. And also, I feel like 25% of another ancestry, that is such a huge chunk to the point where there's not even an argument anymore. I can understand if people go back and forth about whether or not you're mixed, if your admixture is lower than 25%. I can kind of understand the back and forth. But 25%, you don't even look like your own parents at that point. You don't even look like your own grandparents at that point. You could have a grandparent from a whole other country at that point. I feel like at the 25% mark, your mother literally came out of the womb of a white woman. So it's no, that's not even an argument. So that's why I tend to use that marker on this channel. But let's go ahead and get into the next phrase. The next phrase is one of my favorite terms, and that is exotical tax. So exotical tax is any sort of special attention that you're getting due to your phenotype, and by the way, this attention can be positive or negative, because remember, if someone pedestalizes you, they naturally value your attention more. They value what you do more. So that means they're going to get more offended by you. They're going to get more pumped up if you compliment them. You're put on a pedestal. You are magnified. The spotlight is on you. All eyes are on you. So you may go out and get free drinks, or you may go out and get people hating on you randomly and they don't even know you. All of these are a form of exotical tax. It's special privileges and also special scrutiny, similar to what celebrities get due to either being mixed or looking mixed. So the next phrase is light-skinned exotical. This is anyone with a tan to light brown skin tone who either is mixed or looks mixed. And I'll put some examples on the screen. And then the next phrase is dark-skinned exotical. This is a darker skinned person who either looks mixed or is mixed. Because remember, exotical, it just means looking mixed or you are mixed. That's kind of like a broader term that I used on this channel because I noticed in the Black women empowerment space, anyone that was not an unambiguous dark-skinned monoracial Black woman was automatically thrown in and out of the Black community, and sometimes they would make fun of us and call us phrases like exotical. In fact, that was a phrase that I got called when I used to be a supporter of some of those spaces because people would see my profile picture and then they would be like, oh, well, you don't really count anyway, or like you're benefiting from certain privileges. The next phrase I want to go over is broad features. When I use the term broad features, what I'm talking about are the stereotypical West African features that are often associated with unambiguous monoracial darker skinned Black people. So I'm talking about things like wider noses, flatter noses, fuller lips that kind of have that circular shape. I'm talking about the broader jawline. So think of people like Whoopi Goldberg, think of people like Viola Davis, think of people like Jay-Z as far as facial features. I'm not talking about skin tones right now. But these are people who, like Tiana Taylor, you can't be mistaken for mixed. You can't be mistaken for anything other than an unambiguous Black person in terms of your facial features. So by the way, you can have broad features and be mixed race. So some examples of people with broader features who are mixed race are women like LMI. So the next phrase I want to talk about is keen features. When I talk about keen features, I'm talking about smaller pointed features, which are often associated with unambiguous monoracial white people. So think of Taylor Swift. She's a great example of keen features. Somebody who has maybe kind of a pointier nose shape, someone who has maybe slightly smaller lips, they're slightly thinner, maybe their entire face and their jawline and stuff and their chin is slightly more pointed. So that's what I mean when I use the term keen features. As far as African people groups who are often associated with keen features, East Africans, they're a good example of people groups that are often stereotyped as having keener features. So it is possible to have keen features and not be a monoracial white person, just like it's possible to have broad features and not be a monoracial Black person. The next phrase I'm going to talk about is colorism crybabies. So when I use the phrase colorism crybabies, I'm not trying to say that colorism doesn't exist or that if you talk about colorism, you're being a crybaby, but I think the difference between acknowledging colorism and being a crybaby about it is when people use their skin tone as a crutch. When they literally feel like having a darker skin tone is going to hold them back from success in life, when they feel like their skin tone is going to hold them back from dating or from success or having the business that they've always wanted to have. I call that being a crybaby because instead of using your skin tone and your African beauty, instead of using that as something to propel you forward and make you stand out in a positive way, you're using it in the opposite direction. You're using your Blackness to make you stand out in a negative way as if your Blackness is somehow a handicap. And so that's what I mean when I use the term colorism crybabies. That leads me to the next phrase, which was coined by one of the girls in the Discord. Her name is Yellin' and Poppin'. Shout out to you, girl. And this phrase is color envy. So color envy is when you have jealousy over someone's complexion. I know that a lot of you guys have probably experienced people having color envy. Maybe they wish they had your skin tone. They wish they had your complexion. By the way, I do have a story time coming up about color envy and how it affected me personally and the things that I witnessed when I was at an HBCU doing modeling and stuff like that. I'm going to talk about that. But the next phrase is lightism. So this was coined by another content creator. Her name is Ishtar. So shout out to you, Ishtar. Lightism is animosity, resentment, ostracization of Black people of a lighter skin hue or mixed heritage. This usually involves the justification and normalization of verbal, physical, or mental abuse of Black people within said group. Gaslighting and discrediting the lived experience of them is also lightism. Another phrase that we often use here in the Exoticals United community is monocultural. Monoculturalism means that you were just raised within one people group. So here on this channel, I tend to talk about monocultural African Americans. So you can actually be of a multiracial background, but be monocultural. Some good examples of this are Creoles. Often in the Creole community, I've noticed some of them are quite monocultural. I know that not all Creoles are that way, but that's just the first example that I can clearly think of. I also think of lighter skinned black people or multiracial black people who are from the South, or maybe you're from a black community. So you grew up around all black people. Your teachers were black, your classmates were black, your friends were black. You know, you went to an HBCU, a black college. You've only dated black men. Things like that make you monocultural. Maybe on the holidays, you only eat African American soul food. You tend to hang out in black spaces a lot. You go to black clubs, you go to black bars, you live in a black city. So everything you're doing revolves around one culture. You listen to black music, you watch all of the black movies. You can name all of the black love movies from the 90s all the way up until 2023. Monocultural. You can't help if you were raised monoculturally, like let's say your household was monocultural. You can't control that. But I think that some people, they take how they were raised, and when they get older, maybe they don't want to be multicultural, and they try to stay in a monocultural space. So you can be monoculturally black, white, or anything in between, but I think that the issue with monocultural African Americans and MLS people is that a lot of monocultural African Americans, unfortunately, they take on the same flaws of African American culture. So remember, no culture is perfect. Every culture has flaws within it. So that includes the African American culture. I know that a lot of people, you don't want to talk about the flaws in the black community, but I'm here to talk about it because blackness is still a part of me. So I have the right to talk about whatever issues I see in any of the communities that are a part of my ethnic background, and that includes blackness. So when I use the term monocultural, that's what I'm talking about. Your dating life, your love life, pretty much all of the aspects of your life or multiple aspects of your life revolve around just one culture. An example of a monocultural MLS person would be someone like Giselle Bryant from Real Housewives of Potomac, someone like Robin Dixon from Real Housewives of Potomac. They are both very monoculturally African American. So even though they're mixed race, they're monocultural, meaning they date black men, they're surrounded by that culture, they identify with it, they grew up around all black people, and that's what they tend to stay around. The next phrase is multicultural. So these are people who are kind of more like maybe like a Barack Obama or something like that. So you have a multicultural background. You've been around black people and a lot of white people. You've been around a lot of, people from different communities or whatever. So multicultural people often tend to have a fluid identity. These are the people of color who others will often say, oh, you talk white, or you act white, or you seem like you would only date white guys. You seem like you would only date white girls. Well, you're only saying that because they're multicultural. It's not because they pedestalize whiteness or anything like that. It's because they've simply been around a lot of people from that culture and from that background. The next phrase I use is UABP, unambiguous black people. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory. I'm talking about, when I use the term unambiguous, I mean you don't look ambiguous at all. So there's nothing you could be mistaken for other than black. Nobody has ever said, oh, you look like you're mixed. Oh, you look like you are black and white. You look like you're Blasian. No, nobody's ever said anything like that about you because you are unambiguous. So, you get to walk into a room full of black people and not stand out. You blend in within the black community. So people, they don't ask you questions like, what are you? What are you mixed with? Why do your parents look like that? Why do your grandparents look like that? You don't look like a real black person. You don't have those struggles of being thrown in and out of the black community based on your looks alone. Another phrase that I'm going to start using on this channel is UAMR, unambiguous monoracials. So I think that's pretty self-explanatory as well. So you're unambiguous and you have a monoracial background. Another phrase I'm going to be using is MRMC, monoracial, monocultural. So a person can be monoracial and multicultural, meaning, like I said, you've been around a lot of people who are outside of your culture. But there are some people who are monoracial who have only been around people within their own culture. So they're both monoracial and monocultural. I personally believe that most people in the Black women empowerment space are MRMC, monoracial and monocultural. So you've only been around, other black women and men. So all of the things that you're saying about the dating market or about your experiences, they're kind of revolving around black women and black men. You're monocultural. So you keep up with all of the black issues. You have all of the same struggles as most black people because that's your culture. You're monocultural. The next phrase that I often use on this channel is light-skinned. When I use the term light skin, I'm referring to those with a tan to light brown skin tone. If you look at my What Color is Light Skin video, that's actually one of the most popular videos on my channel. Light skinned is beige, tan, high yellow. medium yellow, dark yellow, golden, light brown, red bone, butter pecan, butterscotch, wheat colored skin tones, cashew colored, caramel, rose gold, peach, honey, peanut butter. That's what I mean when I use the term light skin. These are people who are often accused of benefiting from colorism. I believe that light skin is a spectrum, just like how dark skinned is a spectrum. You have some dark skinned people who are very dark, think Lupita Nyong'o, and then you have some darker skinned people who are just barely dark skinned, and sometimes they often get nicknamed brown skin, kind of like Brandy or Jennifer Hudson or somebody like that. So just like darker skin tones are a spectrum, lighter skin tones are a spectrum. Some lighter skinned people are white passing, and then there are light skinned people who are light brown. So why is it that there's a spectrum for darker skinned people? There's a spectrum for even white people, where it's like you have the super pale white people, then you have tan white people, and suddenly with light skinned people, there is no spectrum. You're just one shade white passing, and then that's it. You're nothing. No. We get to determine our own language here in the Exoticals United community. We get to take our power back. We get to talk about our own identities and our own experiences with no one silencing us, with no one telling us we're delusional, with no one telling us, oh, we're hyped up in our heads and we're just being bougie and we're trying to have a superiority complex. No, we get to use whatever phrases we feel comfortable using that describe our experiences here on this YouTube channel. So, what do you ladies think? Do you think we should add some more slang terms into our secret language? Because I love how we have this second language. I like to call it the pretty girl language. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.